Hello, everyone. Today we're going to do more puzzles. We're going to do some easier ones, similar to the last time, and we're going to try doing some slightly harder puzzles as well. And hopefully, we're going to get better at finding the right moves, knowing what to look for, knowing what you should do. So let's begin. Again, in every position, you look at forcing moves, starting with checks, and then captures, and then threats. Here we don't have any good checks, but we spot a free knight, we have a capture, so we take it. Here again, the first few puzzles are quite easy. Here again, there are no good checks, but we have a free knight, we have a capture. Here again, we look at forcing moves, and we need to look at checks. So there is this check, there is this check. And this check looks a lot more interesting because behind this king, we notice there is a rook over here. So once the king moves, we will be able to eventually get this rook. If we think about it, it will be a little bit more interesting because when we calculate, it will go something like here after the king moves. We actually cannot take this rook right away because our rook is hanging and checkmate is possibly threatened. So after we do this and the king moves, we will have to deal with this rook first. That's important. So here, and okay, it told us correct. Again, here we look for checks, and we notice that we have this back rank idea. So we can move the rook up. Um, the king is in check. He'll have to block, and we simply take the queen. Boom, and we take. Okay. Once again, checks captures threats. We don't have any checks, but we notice that this thing is double attacked. So we simply take the rook, and then we take again. Okay. Here we in check, and we have two possible ways to take. In general, even not in this specific case, but in general, it's better to take with the rook because then your rook has an open line and can do things. Here, specifically, not only does it have a line, but it has this square from which we have this skewer. Because when we come here, the king has to move, and then we take this free rook. So we take, and then we go up, and then we take the rook. Here, this is an interesting position. A lot of things are going on. And again, there are several checks to look at, specifically two, bishop takes and queen takes. Let's look at bishop takes. First, bishop takes. We note that the only thing white can do is to take back. And once white takes back, this rook is now free because we get rid of this bishop. It's no longer alive, and this rook is no longer here. And notice again, when we take, he takes, we take, it's a check again. The only way for white to deal with that check will be to move his rook back here, and then our queen and our bishop will be attacking this rook, and we will be able to take it. So again, he takes. Now, as stated, this is free. He has to block, and now we take. Okay, here again we'll look at the checks. This one does not work because there is a queen here. This is a move we would like to play, but we notice that this one is actually checkmate because our pawn controls this square. So queen checkmate. Here, one thing about chess which is important is being able to recognize patterns. So here we notice that this king is in a little bit of trouble because our bishop controls these squares. If somehow magically our rook was able to get here, this would be checkmate. And this is not something that black would be able to stop. So we play rook here, and once we do this, it doesn't matter what he does, he'll throw in a check, we'll eventually get out of checks, and then we will be able to checkmate. Rook here, and again, this doesn't do anything, we just go and check. Here, again, looking at checks, we notice that we can go here, which is a fork. A fork, as we all know, is when you attack two things at the same time. So queen here, and we take. Okay. Again, we look at the checks, and the first check which comes to mind is rook here, because this rook protects it. The king has one move, he has to go down, and now a second rook is going to be able to come up and checkmate. Although some people, this is kind of important, a lot of people would get excited and take this queen, but if you note, in this position, we actually down a queen and the bishop for our knight. So even if we win this queen for our rook, we will still be down. So it's important not to go for the queen, but instead to checkmate. Rook here. Again, another pattern. A lot of the time when black castles, this pawn ends up being a little weak. And here we notice that we have a bishop and a queen almost looking in this direction. And we notice that when we move our pawn, when our pawn moves up, not only do we open this guy's up, but also our pawn attacks this bishop over here. And this is a discovery tactic. So we play here, he stops our checkmate, but of course we take the free bishop. We're going to do a couple more. Here we have a pin tactic. Notice that our rook is on the same line as the queen. So when we take this rook and he takes us back, he doesn't have to, but then we just want the rook. If he takes us back, we can take the queen. So takes. Okay. Once again, just like last time, we have a pin tactic. We have this bishop, which pins this pawn, which means that our rook can actually swing over here and take the pawn on h5. And note, when we do this, the pawn is not allowed to take us back because, once again, we have this pin. So rook here is actually checkmate. Once again, here we look at checks, and one thing that's important to remember, a lot of people, when they play chess, they don't coordinate their pieces. The knight could be on one side of the board, the bishop could be somewhere else, the rook could be taking a nap. It's very important to use all your pieces. So here we know that our rooks and this pawn can together as a team checkmate the king. We have this check. Notice the king cannot go here, the square is covered. The only move for the king is to move back, and then our second rook moves up with a checkmate, because this rook over here ends up covering this square. So make sure, as if you can, to have your pieces working as a team. Um, this is a common tactic, and we'll actually go back and move to show what happened here. There is a pin going one way, but it's also important that there is a discovery going the other. And sometimes when white plays this move, he thinks he wants that because our king has to move, or so it seems, and then he takes our bishop. The problem is we don't have to move our king, we can take his knight. And a lot of people, if you only think one move ahead, you would not play this move because it looks scary. You lose a queen, which is why it's important to think more than one move ahead. Because you realize if he takes us back, then we can take his queen and we don't actually lose anything. If we just move the king, of course, we lose our bishop. So we end up taking here, and also our queen now defends the bishop. That's important. So queen takes, and now bishop takes queen. Um, we're going to do one last puzzle here. The most obvious and simple move seems to be just rook takes queen. So unless there is something cooler, which I don't see, this is the move. And now we spend a little bit of time, look at forcing moves, and we notice again our pieces are working together. And rook here is checkmate because our knight defends our rook, our pawn defends our knight, our pawn also covers this square, and this is actually checkmate. For now, we're going to stop. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. And hopefully, more exciting videos are going to appear soon. Thank you very much. And also, if you have a suggestion or an idea of what I should do next, please leave it in the comments. Thank you very much.